Hey everyone, welcome to the Get Your Life Together Girl Mini Mindset Reset. I'm your host, Danielle. As a cognitive behavioral therapist, a life coach to women, and author, one thing has become abundantly clear. So much of what gets in our way in our daily lives is not only how we think, but what we think, our mindset. Because of that, every other week, I'm taking your requests and questions and handing over quick, easy to use, practical strategies and life tools to help you shift your thinking, create calm, help you understand and express your emotions, harness your inner power, and learn how to navigate your personal story in 15 minutes or less. After all, how else can you get your life together? So let's shift your perspective with the tools and conversations that help you in the throes of change. The Get Your Life Together Girl podcast mini mindset reset starts right now. There are lots of conversations about ways to find inner peace. And it's this time of the year, the holiday season, where our inner peace tends to be a focus. It's something that we want, and yet it's rocked by the experiences that we have if we do not have a healthy family life, if we do not have a healthy boundary around our schedule and time. In today's Mindset Reset, I want to talk about a quick way to identify this key to finding inner peace. And it all comes from a question sent in by Tiffany S. And she wrote, Danielle, I have heard you talk about the need to relinquish control and let go of the fight. But I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes I feel like doing so makes me a pushover or a doormat that the people around me will abuse because they know that I'm just going to let it go. I heard you also say that we want to get into a place that we're living a life of surrendering. But again, that makes me feel like self-respect and self-love is not possible for me if I live in both spaces. Can you help explain? And maybe I'm looking at it wrong. Help me know what you mean. Tiffany, that's a really great question. I can see the confusion. Let's break down what it means to find and feel inner peace. Okay, especially in the holiday season, we're around people that really push our buttons and really rock that stable space of looking within ourselves and really owning who we are. Now, here's the thing. This really is a twofold question. The first is set around the thought of boundaries. So let's talk about boundaries themselves, and then we talk about the inner peace aspect of Tiffany's question. The first thing is this. If we do not have strong boundaries, then we are going to always struggle with feeling like we're not a doormat, right? Because we bend, we shape, we give too much, we people please, we do all the things in order to make others comfortable. And especially in this time of year, boundaries become a big sacrifice for a lot of people because we just want to go with the flow. We want dinner to go well for Thanksgiving. We just want the holiday season to be okay. And a lot of times when we put that thought process on and we own it, we tend to try to push through and we sort of wait for the holidays to be over. And it isn't a really healthy way to connect to the people around you and to the things that you're trying to do and create. So again, let's talk about what a boundary is. A boundary is what you're willing to accept from someone else. Plain and simple. And sometimes we have an idea of what our boundaries are, and other times things happen and all of a sudden that becomes a boundary. It's these things we didn't even realize were something that we were willing to accept or unwilling to accept. Our inner peace can be rocked if we sacrifice our boundaries to please others. So during this time, in order to create inner peace, you have to prioritize your values and beliefs. It's sort of that conversation that you don't talk about politics at the dinner table, right? It's that thing. What are you willing to trip into, and what conversations, actions, feelings, thought processes are you unwilling to engage with. A lot of times we do feel like doormats when we feel guilty for setting those priorities, but it is something that must be done if you want to create not only self-respect, but respect for those others in the room, right? The way that you respect them and they respect you. And I want you to also know that you should never assume someone else's boundary lines. You have to communicate with that person or the event itself very clearly and assertively, but not aggressively. This is very important because when we hold our tongues, when we sit quiet, our inner peace is rocked. So be sure that you know that you can communicate what needs to be communicated. Another thing that often rocks our peace is taking everything personally. How many times have you been in a room where mom or dad or grandma or the uncle or whoever has said something and you take it so personally, even if it wasn't something they meant to really have you own? It's important to know that boundaries are really about protecting your well-being, not punishing someone else. So important to understand this. If somebody says something, you have a choice to connect. If you choose to connect and it rocks your inner peace, whose responsibility is that? Just because someone says something doesn't mean that you have to really engage. So don't take everything personally. Know that your boundary line is set in a space that really can help you and not harm you. And then know that fear can hold you back. And that is, of course, going to rock your inner peace. Setting and having boundaries is often uncomfortable for most people, but they're so worth it for your mental and emotional health, especially this time of year. And then I also want you to remember that you do have the power to readjust your boundary lines as needed. What does that mean? It means if you've done a lot of work over this past year and you haven't seen some of these people in a while, and across the table something is said, well, you always, but that's not your truth anymore. You can readjust your boundaries and say, hey, thanks for that comment, but that's not really me anymore. If you'd like to get to know me, let me know, right? That's a boundary line. All of these things really do edge us into a space of trying to protect our inner peace. What does that look like? How can we create it so that we're not a doormat? Obviously, boundaries are going to stop that doormat feeling pretty immediately, but let's talk about how to protect and create our inner peace. First things first, know your definition of peace. What does peace mean to you? How can you really lean into what you need and want if you do not know what you need and want, right? So I want you to really think about, what does that mean to you? How can you keep this peace? The next thing to be aware of are your choices. It's so important that we understand that despite your definition, that inner peace is a selective action. It is a choice. It is a permission-based experience. If you do not select peace, it's hard to have it, right? So make a choice. And in that choice, be selective of who has access to your thoughts, your feelings, your energy, your action. Inner peace is based on that selectivity. So if you're not choosing who gets access, you are going to feel like a doormat, or that you're laying down your boundaries, or whatever it is, and inner peace is not achievable. So be selective about who, what, where, how, even why, has access to your energy. The next thing is being open to everything. Closed to nothing. That's a saying that Dr. Wayne Dyer had, and I absolutely love it. It's so true. It's really being more open to doing things within the flow. Meaning, I don't have to be so connected to this moment. Instead, I can just be, allow the experience to be what it is, and I don't have to spend a lot of thought or energy or emotions connecting to the moment. I'm okay with being in the flow. In the flow is where peace is found. If you spend a lot of time in your head or negating an experience, of course, inner peace isn't going to be found. So think about it this way. If I go with the flow then peace finds me. If I do not stay in the flow, then peace is absence. So think about what it is that you're willing to give, right? Again, back to that conscious choice. And then tuning into your nervous system. If you find yourself anxious, your hand is shaking, your breath is a little faster, then you can know that your inner peace is being rocked and that you need space. This is where that boundary line comes back into place, where you say, you know what, this isn't working for me, so I'm going to take a full step back and just sit in it for just a minute. It's so important. It's so necessary. Tune into your nervous system because it knows what your mind is thinking long before the emotional body rises and you've created connection for yourself. So listen, what are you feeling, right? What is it that's happening within your body? That way you can bring yourself back into peace. One of the biggest things that rocks our emotional and mental experience during the holidays is this need to explain ourselves. And the minute that we begin to overly explain ourselves is the minute that inner peace makes a full exit. So try not to over-explain yourself. It either works for you or it doesn't. And you have to remember that sometimes silence is an answer too. Now, that sounds selfish. It sounds nasty. It sounds so ugly, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying be respectful of other people and their emotions. But if something doesn't work, it's okay to say so, right? In a respectful way. What works for you? What doesn't? And then letting go of this self-expectation. This is a big thing for a lot of us. During the holidays, we really, like I said in the very beginning, try to overdo because we think that other people need us to do that. And then we're exhausted. And then no one says thank you. No one appreciates anything that you do. And you become angry. If we have negative emotions, guess what's not present? Inner peace, right? So think about what it is that you have an expectation of, and does it work full term? Can you think from the very beginning to the very end and think about how it plays out, forecasting a little bit here, and decide, does this work for me? Another big thing when it comes to our boundaries, when it comes to the holidays, when it comes just to every day, I need you to actively choose peace over chaos. Remember just a few seconds ago, I said peace is an active choice. A lot of times when we are in a space where chaos is ensuing, we tend to follow suit, right? We overreact. We lean all the way in, and all I'm asking you to do is to choose what works for you, not just now, but long term. What can you do? Can you focus on why you're having the experience that you're having and decide what is it that will work for me? You can grow at any time, right, in our peace, but we can also grow in the madness. And so we have to begin to protect the peace. Protect it by being clear. We don't have to try to persuade everyone. We don't have to help everybody do everything. We don't have to pretend that we're enjoying something when we don't. We don't have to get into a space where we are settling. We don't have to hurt in order to make everything work for everyone else. What works for you? What is important? Put the boundary around it and know that peace comes from letting situations be what they are without having to try to change everything or make it perfect or make it what it should be. But instead, it's owning yourself, deciding what you'll take from the moment, and humbly moving into each experience. It's okay to let go of things that don't work for you. It's okay to let go of things you can't control. These are the ways to protect your peace and energy. Keep your faith larger than your fear, right? In yourself, in whatever you believe. Be grateful for what you are experiencing because it's teaching you something. Don't be afraid to sit alone or spend time alone. Don't be afraid of that because sometimes that's exactly what we need. Avoid spaces and people and things that don't work for you and don't make you feel right. Speak kindly about yourself and to others, but mostly speak up when needed. Avoid the people that drain your energy. Pay attention to your thoughts and your feelings, and most certainly pay attention to your triggers. Honoring your boundaries may seem like an attack to those that are so easily able to ignore them, but that also means that they're ignoring you. So do yourself a favor, protect your peace, create a safe space for yourself, wrap yourself in all the goodness and all the things that are so wonderful, and be mindful about what you allow in your life. Most importantly, remember, we do teach people how to treat us. So what you accept is how they will show up. Thank you so much for your question, Tiffany. I hope this helps you. And for everyone, remember, protect your peace, because your peace is one of the most important things that you have. Thank you so much for listening to the Get Your Life Together Girl mini mindset reset. If you have a subject or a strategy request, email us at getyourlifetogethergirl@gmail.com. Or you can visit our website at getyourlifetogethergirl.com. If you're looking for daily inspiration or tips and tools, join the growing community at Get Your Life Together Girl on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Thank you for being a valuable member of this community. Until next time, be kind to yourself and others.